And welcome to the College Hockey News Insiders podcast, first summer off-season special regarding the coaches. In this case, not a new head coach per se, but new school for Brett Larson going from St. Cloud State to Minnesota. Obviously a big change, one of the premier programs in the country, and so a big deal. And so we have him first, but we'll have the others coming up shortly. And as we speak, Harvard just about to hire a new coach after Ted Donato stepped down after 22 years. So we'll know that one soon as well. But here's my chat with Brett Larson. Congrats on the gig. I mean, you've been around the state of Minnesota somewhere or another basically your whole life. So what's it feeling like now that it's here to actually go to the big school, so to speak?
Yeah, it's kind of surreal in some ways, to be honest. Obviously, even looking at the mural behind me, I sit down at the desk, and you're looking at Herb Brooks and John Mariucci up there, and the legends of Minnesota coaching, and it's obviously a huge honor, and for me, just a dream come true to be able to coach at a program like this. So, grew up in Minnesota, and have looked up to this program for a long time. So, really excited about it.
I mean, I probably had the same question for Bob 8 years ago, so.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I followed him twice now. I joke about that, so yeah. I've got experience taking over a Bob Motzko program, that's for sure.
And it's always weird when, quote unquote, the Minnesota is the big school, right? And you don't want to disparage St. Cloud in any way, or even Duluth before that and whatnot. I mean, but so is there a tough dynamic to just to tell people, hey, I want to go for this, this is kind of the pinnacle, so to speak?
I think most people in Minnesota see that. Obviously, all the Division I programs in Minnesota are great. I coached at St. Cloud, and I absolutely love my time there, and I'm really, really proud of everything we did there. Extremely proud of Duluth. I played there, coached there, grew up watching, teams when I was a little kid. Yeah. I love all these rivalries. But let's face it, the University of Minnesota, the Gophers have kind of been the flagship program of the state just throughout the history of college hockey. And programs have had their moments and done really well too. But this one's kind of been the pinnacle of Minnesota hockey. Growing up in Minnesota, is when you're a kid, you look up to this program. I grew up as a little kid, not real little, but guys like Rob Stauber and Corey Millen right in my backyard that were Gophers, and you followed those guys. And there's just always been kind of a really, really high respect level for this program and everything it's about, kind of being the flagship program for the state.
Yeah, and like I said, I probably again said the same thing to Bob 8 years ago. But I hope nobody gave you too much grief for it, because I think it it is understandable, and especially nowadays, unfortunately, for better or worse, the resource difference is pretty big with the Big Ten schools. So you're going into a situation where, you basically have as much as any other program in college hockey. And, the other schools in the NCAA and whatnot do pretty well without that. But I guess to be able to operate under that is a good attraction.
Yeah, obviously I'm really excited about that. And there's a pressure that comes with that as well. And it's a good pressure. We do have the resources to be in the fight with anybody. We've got a program with as much history as anybody in the country and legacy, where we want to go after the top recruits that fit this program. And there's a pressure on us that we believe we should be able to get them now. So with the resources, with the history, with what this program has meant to the state over the years, I guess there's a word that I kind of feel like there's a responsibility, for me here, knowing that you have those things. And I feel that that's a good responsibility, and I want to have that, and I want to get this program to where it deserves to be, because we do have those resources, we do have that history. This should be an exciting place for kids to want to come to play, and not just the best players, but the best people, and just continue to fill this locker room with guys that really care about this program and want it to be one of the top programs of college hockey.
It's funny. There's a little bit of a catch-22 with the Big Ten schools. I'm here in Denver, and I'm familiar with what they're doing, and they don't have football, so they're able to devote whatever resources they have at their school to hockey, pretty much. Whereas at Minnesota, Michigan State, much of their dollars are still going to football and basketball, right? So how has that balance? Do you even have a handle on that at this point?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Obviously, there's a little bit more flexibility being at a non-football school when it comes to some of those things as far as the dollars that can be allocated. But in my opinion, we've got enough to be in the fight, right? We've got enough to be on the fight. So if we can be on at least an even playing field with anybody else or close, then the legacy and the history of this program, what it means to wear the M, especially for a kid from Minnesota. I think those things are things that have to hopefully win out. And hopefully at the end of the day, you're recruiting kids that money isn't the only thing they're coming for. I'm not sure I want a guy that, well, you know what? I am sure that I don't want a player that money is the only reason that they'd want to come to Minnesota. If it's the only reason, I don't want them. If it's part of the equation, but what's more important is their development as a person and as a player and being in a great culture and a great locker room with a great history, that's the player we want.
No, 100%. But, you know, this is the world, right? People, a little bit of money doesn't hurt. So
it doesn't. But again, I think it's a good thing to think about. If money is the reason a player wants to come to your program, is that the player you want? Probably not. If it's part of that package and hopefully falls a few rungs down to some other things, it is a nice bonus for any player to be able to be rewarded for their hard work.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, that, for certain, that's the distinction that I'm sure everyone's making at this point. And then forgive me because I don't really follow the recruiting stuff that well. You know, I don't see most of these guys until they actually get to college, and then I make my opinions. But so you see all the stuff getting thrown out there with, you know, some of the big names coming from Major Junior again this year. You know, guys at Denver and Michigan and whatnot. And Minnesota hasn't really been in that mix, so I'm just curious if that's just a matter of timing, or you know, you already had guys under control, or just because you got there later that maybe you weren't. It's just, you know, talk about that process. I was just curious why I haven't seen Minnesota's name in the mix on those yet.
Well, part of it's just the pool that we have here, right? I mean, we're going to be 80 to 90% Minnesota kids every year, no matter what. I really don't see that changing. But, you know, we have stepped into the Western Hockey League, the major junior market. We recruited Terrence Smith. Terrence was a captain in Everett. We believe one of the best defensemen in that league, a little bit older. You know, he'll be coming in as a 20-year-old third-round pick to Anaheim. Really fit what we were hoping to build here in our D-core. A little bit of an overhaul on the D-core, and he's a big part of it. So we have dipped our toe in there a little bit, and I think Minnesota's going to be right in the mix with some of the top players up there. We probably won't take a ton because of how good our pool is here in Minnesota. But when it's the right player and the right fit and the right person, I think you're going to be seeing Minnesota's name in there a little bit more than you think.
Yeah, no, for sure. You know, like I said, I'm just curious because I don't really know these individual circumstances. But, like, you know, I remember last year, one of the big ones, obviously, I mean, forget McKenna because that's sort of like its own ballpark. But the Porter Martone thing, which happened right after the draft, actually. Do you expect there to be those kinds of dynamics happening again every year where there's going to be the draft will happen and then some NHL team will say, hey, why don't you go there, you know?
I think that's going to happen more and more. And I think it puts us college coaches in a little bit different spot where we need to be prepared for that. And, you know, maybe holding a roster spot open because it happened last year. It's going to happen this year. We're already hearing a lot of those, you know, a lot of that talk, a lot of that chatter that some of those kids after the draft, if the NHL team is supportive of a move like that, that there's going to be some guys available. So I think you're going to see that every year.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing who it is this year.
Yeah.
You've been part of USA Hockey and whatnot, and I think part of this dynamic, too, we're seeing, it's kind of weird, like these guys are, a lot more guys are coming from Major Junior, but now you're also seeing the younger guys, maybe Americans, go to Major Junior at 16 that weren't doing that before. I think I just read something where the Quebec League had like 65 Americans drafted in their draft, whereas a couple of years ago it was like 15. So that's just an interesting dynamic. I mean, I don't know if that's good or bad, but I was curious your take on that.
I think a little bit of it is just the what's the word I'm looking for? The novelty of it all on both sides. You know, the USHL is obviously a great league. Development program has done a fantastic job. I think some of it is just this is new. There are new opportunities that kids have never had before. I think people want to look into it. I think there's a shiny object piece to it a little bit where it's just kind of this new shiny object out there. There are obviously some good opportunities. I think things will just kind of settle down as the next couple of years go on here. I think this is all part of this just being so new and people kind of it's new to all of us. And I think we're all going to kind of figure this out as it goes. And I think things will kind of just settle down a little bit with player movement over the next couple of years.
Yeah. Well, before I get back to some of these topics, I just want to make sure I ask you about your team. I think, if I'm not mistaken, St. Cloud, you guys hadn't played each other since like 2023.
Yeah,
Is that right?
Years. Unfortunately, they beat us to go to in the Elite Eight to go to the Frozen Four.
Right.
Tough loss for the Huskies that night. That one hurt. We really liked our team, and boy, they were loaded too. Nyes, Faber, Cool, all these guys. I mean, it was. They were loaded. But I really like the team that we put together for this year. We're really, really confident that we can make a big step this year. We've got 13 returners and 13 new guys. So the guys are in this right now in the summer with an off-season volunteer training program. I've got the guys together for 3 weeks. It's been really fun so far. So really need to bring this group together, but we really like what we've got.
I mean, yeah, where I was going with that too is just that, like, I was just curious how familiar you were when you came in, and compared to now with the team itself, because you hadn't seen them really.
Well, I'm really familiar. I don't know. One of the first things I said to the team is, you guys are all guys that have told me no at least once recruiting thing because I never got any, but I recruited every kid here.
Right.
So I know the returners very well, and obviously we went into the portal and we were able to grab 5 guys that we targeted and we're really hoping to get. Went up and got Terrence Smith out of Everett. So I'm very familiar with this group of players, and we're really excited about them.
Yeah, when you say 13 newcomers, it's like you don't even bat an eye these days. It's like normal now, right?
I know. It's crazy,
it's
isn't
crazy.
it? But we're hoping that we're going to do it the right way, and we don't need to do that every year. We're hoping this is part of a coaching change, and an ability for us as a new staff to bring in the guys that we want, build the culture in the team and the way we want to do it. And so we had an opportunity to do that. Some of the guys that left were able to find homes, which I'm really happy with, and we were happy to get the guys that we wanted to bring in.
But you have seen that be more common, clearly, recent years. So, I mean, is it realistic to feel like there's still a way to build? Because, that's always been the issue with the Big Ten schools, is, keeping all the blue chip talent and keeping enough upperclassmen. And, now you throw in the transfers and the money. It's like, is it even realistic to feel like you can keep enough guys for 4 years?
I think it is, and I might change your statement there just a little bit. It's realistic, I think, to hope to keep our top guys for 3. If you look at the stats out there for a lot of the top players, that third year is really important for them. It sets them up for more success in college hockey. I think if we can keep our kind of high end guys for 3 years, build the right culture here, we won't need to be in the portal a ton. I do think the one thing that the portal has done is it puts a lot of onus on us as coaches to make sure we've got a great culture. We have to have one, otherwise we're going to lose our players. And we were fortunate this year not to lose anybody that we had hoped to build the team around, and we were able to get the guys that we wanted. So for us, if we build the culture the right way and we're able to keep our blue chippers for at least 3, we think that puts us in a good spot.
Well, that sounds great, but I mean, as you could be the Scotty Bowman, Al Arbor put together, and guys are still coming and going. You know what I mean? It's just almost not even anyone's fault. It's just the way it is.
It's not. And sometimes the fans don't know which guys are going for what reason, right? There are some positives of the portal, and I think the number one thing is, and I saw it at St. Cloud. I've seen it at other schools. I've seen it here. A kid that maybe just ends up kind of being passed over a little bit. Better recruits are coming in, transfers are coming in, and they have the opportunity to go somewhere else and play a bigger role and play. I think that's a good thing. That's a positive part of the portal, and that's something that I think is going to keep happening more and more as we do a better and better job. I think and the pool's expanded. Right, there's more players available than ever now.
Yeah, I mean, this sort of all plays into like the whole, the Big Ten hasn't won a national championship yet, and you're coming from the league where it's been dominant. I mean, maybe you guys, even St. Cloud, obviously you went to a Frozen Four championship game, and like you just said, Elite Eight. Obviously, Denver and Western have won it, Minnesota, Duluth, so on and so forth. But is there anything to that anymore? Is it just coincidence? Because I think for a while it was the fact that some of these guys were coming and going so fast, and it was hard to manage that.
Yeah.
More recent years, it seems like, I mean, last year's Michigan team, there's no reason. I mean, play that game 100 times, they might win 60 of them. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I was fortunate to be part of the Big Ten the very first year of it. I was at Ohio State, and I just the growth of the Big Ten. It's gotten better and better every year. Obviously, the NCHC has been really established, and they've done a great job. But I think the Big Ten's trajectory right now has just been to get better and better and better. I think with the resources you talked about, I think with the ability to recruit the top-end players, I think the expanded player pool is only going to help the Big Ten. And I think we're obviously knocking on the door of that first championship. And obviously we want to be the ones to do it. But I think that it's just, I don't want to say coincidence that the NCHC's done a great job. Like I said, very established. They've earned it. But I think the Big Ten's definitely improved every year to the point we're knocking on that door now more than ever.
And I don't want you to have to make proclamations you'll regret, but I mean, is this a team that can get right back to the NCAAs? I mean, without really much delay?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's our goal. Every team has that goal, right, going in, but that's our expectation. We really believe this team is an NCAA tournament team, and we're going to be disappointed if we don't make it there. So there's no doubt walking in the locker room for first practice on Tuesday after Labor Day that this team's expectation is going to be an NCAA tournament.
And forgive me if I've missed something or forgotten something. You got both your goalies back? Is that right?
No, we got one back.
Okay.
We got one back. Luca was a really good. I'm really excited about him. We brought a transfer in from Michigan State to
right. Okay.
Melvin's coming in to battle him out, and I think we got a really good 1-2 punch, and those two guys are going to really push each other. So really excited about starting with the coming. You want to start from the net out. You're going to win a championship. You got to be good there. You know that. And we got a couple really good goalies.
I want to get back to a couple of the issues because, I mean, the news never stops.
No, it doesn't. Changing every week.
It is changed every week, that's for sure. And sure, if you've been reading my stuff on College Hockey News, it's hard to even keep up with, but I've been trying. Coming out of Florida, though, all coaches united it's very rare against, I guess, the NCAA's plan to change the age requirements. And it looks like, hopefully, thankfully, maybe that's been accomplished. But what was the thought? I mean, because for a Big Ten team, you could argue that like the way that the NCAA was changing it was a great thing for you guys, with a younger roster and whatnot. So what led to that consensus? What was the concern, and are you happy with how things have turned out?
Yeah, boy, we got scared there for a minute. I mean, this thing's been all over the place, but hopefully the last version that they've announced is the one they're going to go with. I think it's a great kind of middle ground. I think having it start at 19 really puts us in a good spot, puts everybody in a good spot. And I think it's the uniformity they want. It's the right thing for college hockey. Really happy that they came around, and hopefully it was our influence a little bit that did that. You know what? I sit in two chairs a little bit. So yes, could we have been a little bit younger and it technically helped the Big Ten a little bit? Probably. But we talked about this at the beginning of the interview, especially here in Minnesota. We're the flagship program for the state of Minnesota, and that's not just college hockey. It's junior hockey, high school hockey, youth hockey. I kind of feel like sitting in this chair, you're kind of the head of Minnesota hockey a little bit, right?
Right.
I was really concerned about what it would do to Minnesota high school hockey. We've got such a great brand here. We've got such a great development path. You look at the numbers into college hockey in the NHL out of Minnesota. I was so worried we're going to have all these kids leaving after their sophomore year, thinking they need to go play too early. It wouldn't be good for them. Leaving home too early, leaving families too early, hurting Minnesota high school hockey, hurting junior hockey, to be honest, too. Just all the downstream effects of what that rule would have done would have been really tough for our sport. And I just thought, big picture, we need to fight like crazy to make sure that rule didn't go through as they had proposed. And thankfully, they made that change.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to hear you say that because, I mean, people have been asking me, like, why did they, because, maybe on the surface, like you said, it helps you, but who knows the unintended consequences of all that? Just completely blowing up the whole ecosystem.
It would have blown up our sport. It would have blown up our sport, the ecosystem of our sport. And the thing I really didn't like the most was just thinking of families having their kids leave at too young, and for some kids that's the right thing, but it's not right for everyone. And I just didn't like the downstream effects of that on young kids and how it would affect Minnesota high school hockey. I thought it would have been terrible. So we're really happy that they found a really good common ground. I think I like the rule now. I think it's a good rule. And we can live
I was going to say, the only thing I'll say is that from my buddies on the other end of the spectrum, the Ivy League, some of those fans hate it because the fifth-year rule, they can't take advantage of it. So that's the one place where, I'm talking to Casey, and he was also obviously an adamant arguer in front of the NCAA, and I'm trying to explain to friends of mine, like, why is Cornell arguing for the change when the fifth year really hurts them? They can't do it. Quinnipiac can, that kind of thing. And I just basically said the same thing you just said, like, why risk blowing up the entire ecosystem? So coming at it from both perspectives, I don't personally love the fifth year, but it will be interesting to see how it plays. I'm not sure how much it'll impact hockey.
It's funny. I was so concerned about the effects prior to coming into college on the sport. I didn't even think about the fifth year thing as much, to be honest.
Well, right. The non-Ivy guys don't think. I tell this to David Carl all the time. Like, you don't think about what I think about. So no, it's okay.
We were thinking more on the other side of it, right?
Yeah, I know.
Coming into college, so
I worry about my six buddies in the Ivy Leagues. So whatever, we're the minority, but but I'm curious. I mean, maybe it won't have that much of an impact anyway. As I was telling people too, like, I think some of the better players, most of the better players are going to be gone by then.
Well, that's what I was. We were talking earlier a little bit about our goal of being a place where we can keep our top end guys at least 3 years. To be honest, even now in college hockey, a lot of your elite players are gone before their senior year.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not sure how much that fifth year on the back end is really going to change college hockey. I don't think a ton, as much as some people might think. I think it would have hurt us more had they gone the other way with that rule. And gotten way too young. So I think it's a really good middle ground, like I said.
I hate to keep throwing the tough questions at you, but one of the other pieces of grief I constantly get from various knuckleheads online that I try to ignore, but it's like, hey, why should college hockey be special? Why should there be 20-year-old freshmen and whatnot? Every other kid goes to school at 18. So is there a valid point to that? I mean, why are these kids being hurt, I guess, by being pushed off to 20 years old?
Well, one thing, it's one of the reasons why college hockey's got one of the best GPAs in college sports every year, I think. Our guys have a little bit of life experience and a little bit older when they come in. They're very successful as student athletes. That's impossible to argue, the success rate of student athletes in Division I college hockey. So I can't see a scenario where it hurts our players to have a little more real life experience before they come into college at all. So I think it's the exact opposite. College hockey is competitive as ever, with as much parity as ever, doing better in the classroom than ever, doing better off the ice than ever, as far as what we do in the community and volunteering and that type of thing. So I'd really like to hear a good argument to say that this is hurting kids in any way.
Yeah, I mean, look, I totally agree with you. So I'm just throwing out what they, I think the not that they're valid arguments necessarily, but people say, like, these kids they want to go to college, and coaches are forcing them to go to junior when they could be going to college with their buddies, that kind of thing. Yeah. So
I was always told, don't be in a hurry to get a real job someday. So I don't know. These kids get a lot of, you get to go play junior hockey in a lot of really cool places and see a different part of the country or the world. And man, I think those are all really good experiences. So I know we're different than everybody else. I'm okay with that. I think our sport's okay with that. So I just don't see a lot of arguments that it's detrimental to these kids.
Yeah. Anyway. Well, there's still Gopher fans upset that they lost to Union and Quinnipiac with a bunch of 24-year-olds. So I'm always having to argue with them too. Say, hey, what's the big deal, right? 24. So I'm glad that
I get
they'll have to live with that.
And that's even changing here a little bit. It's most of our players coming in now are playing junior hockey here, even at Minnesota. That's started the change, and I think college hockey being a little bit older without having people that are 25, 26, 27 playing college hockey, I totally get it. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, no, I mean 24 will now be the cutoff and the max. I mean, before it was 20. There was some 25-year-olds, not a whole lot actually. So anyway, before I let you go, I appreciate this. I don't know if you can speak specifically to your non-league schedule this year. I mean, the Big Ten's always the last one to let it out, so I never know. But
I guess we're working. I was just told the other day we're working on that. That's going to get out any time now. So.
But I guess general philosophy, though, I mean, how much now that you're in this seat as opposed to the other seat, will you be trying to play a lot of those historical rivals?
We will.
Dakota, St. Cloud, Minnesota, Duluth, etc.
Yep, we've got a contract with Duluth. I know that. I just signed a 2-year one with St. Cloud. Obviously, just coming from there, I want to keep that rivalry going. Got a deal done with Denver. So we've got some nice things for the future. Now, a lot of those are starting off in the future a little bit, 2-3 years down the road. I'm continuing to finish out the schedule that was here and adding a few things to it. We did just add a home and home with Mankato for this season, which I'm really excited about. That's going to be a huge rivalry series here in the state. We've got Duluth, we've got North Dakota, we've got Michigan Tech, Alaska Anchorage. We got a lot of the old WCHA rivalries that the fans like. For me personally, I love the rivalries in non-conference. I think it makes it more fun for the fans. I think it makes it more fun for our players. I think you'll see Minnesota move forward with a really tough competitive schedule. I'd rather really try to sharpen us for a tough league, and that's how we're going to move forward.
And I guess last but not least, you made the trade on your coaching staff between St. Thomas and yourselves there. I guess Corey Leyland coming in.
Yep.
And talk about him a little bit, and also Paul Martin now having like a full-time role, obviously a legendary Gopher and a former NHL player.
Yeah, really excited about both those guys. Obviously, I'll start with Paul. Paul was here as a part-time position, which we've kind of moved Matt Cullen into that role. We've expanded on it a little bit, but Matt will be in the director of player development role as a part-time, and then Paul moves into full-time, and he was ready for it. I knew I wanted him if he would do it. He'd been kind of on the fringes. Now he can't wait to get in there and just work with these defensemen. I mean, tell you what, when we're recruiting a kid and we tell him that Paul Martin's going to be working with you a day, it doesn't get much better than that. So he was on the road recruiting this weekend. He's getting his first taste of that. I think he spent some time in Sioux City and Sioux Falls. So probably his first time in Sioux City, Iowa, I'm guessing.
Yeah, right. I was going to say he could kick back and relax. Like, why go on the road? I mean, that's a grind.
Yep, he got into the grind this weekend, so it's fun. I think the biggest reason is he cares. He loves this program. It's he cares about it, and he knows he has a lot to bring and a lot of value to add. And just seeing his relationship with the players and how much he cares about them is really exciting. So obviously we'll have him in working with the D, and then Corey Leyland. I just like his story a lot. Like, I've known him a long time. We played roller hockey together. We played hockey together in San Diego. I've known him forever. We played high school against each other. And a lot of guys come out of pro and they like to step right into coaching. I was one of them. I got really lucky.
Yeah.
And I got into college hockey just out of, Scott Sandlin wanted an alumni and we got to work with a D, and we joked that I was the only guy he knew. So anyway, that worked out for me. But Corey, that opportunity wasn't there for him right away. And he went out to moved his family to Brookings, South Dakota, and coaches in the North American Hockey League. They goes to Hamlin and becomes a head coach at the D3 level and learns a lot there. Goes to St. Thomas, does an excellent job there, and another former Gopher that's got his heart in the sleeve for this program and loves it. And for me, that was the perfect fit. He was a forward in college and a D in pro. He brings a really unique experience to the game. I'll have him doing a lot of the work with the forwards, and Ben Gordon's going to be doing a lot of the recruiting for us. Ben's got a great eye for recruits and a great personality to deal with the young kids. So that's how the staff's going to lay out, and really happy to have all those guys.
Man, I forgot you were in San Diego for a while. I mean, I was just looking at places I want to retire to. That's like number one on the list. So,
boy, was that a great spot to be a hockey player? I can tell you that. It was. You'd practice in the morning, and we'd joke. Okay, we had 3 golf courses we could play for free.
Yeah.
It was either golf or go down by the beach and just hang out and watch people rollerblade and stuff and have lunch. So it was a pretty nice schedule.
No, a tough one, I'm sure. Well, appreciate you doing this.